Welcome to Revolutionary Motion, where we show you tennis from a different perspective. If you're wondering why your topspin backhands end up short on the other side of the court, despite the fact that you're trying to hit them hard, here's the easy answer for you and how to fix that. So let's first take a look at why your balls end up short. So when you're hitting your backhands and you're giving it a lot of topspin, in most of the cases you will see people drop their wrist and their arm down low in order to get more under the ball so they can give it topspin from the bottom and lift the ball up. Now the problem with that is the more you drop your racket or your arm and your wrist, the more your motion will move up on the ball and not forward. So yes, you're technically adding more topspin, but you're also taking away a lot of the pace because now your racket, for balls for example here, cannot develop as much forward power as it could if it was a little bit higher and more behind the contact point rather than below it. So now in order to fix that, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your swing is more of a back and forth motion rather than a down and up motion. Now you might think that that will keep you from adding enough topspin on your backhand shots to get the ball over the net and make it bounce high and have a good net clearance. But that's not really true because most of the topspin comes from you dropping your wrist, not necessarily from you dropping your arm, and that wrist straightening out through the contact point. Now, in order to make this perfect and give yourself a very deep backhand with good pace and good topspin, what you want to do is you want to make sure that instead of just dropping your wrist, you want to take your wrist back this way a little bit more. Like that, you can see that now if the wrist straightens out, it's a lot more forward motion, which supports the depth on your shot because it gives you more forward power and transfers that power into the ball. Now, if you want to still add topspin, you first take the racket back like this or your wrist back like this, and then you drop it a little bit. So now you can see you're under the ball because the contact point would obviously be somewhere where the wrist is straight, right? So now you move the racket under the ball, but you also moved it back enough that straightening out motion of the wrist gives you enough power to hit your backhands deep. Now the same principle works on the one-handed backhand as well as your forehands. So you can technically improvise on the forehand and try to get the ball deep somehow, or you're using that same kind of principle and just drop your wrist a little bit but take it back more. So that goes hand in hand with the video that we made about slapping your forehands. In this case, slapping your backhands as well. Because as you can see, that wrist motion on the forehand is kind of like a slap. You're trying to slap the ball with your hand. Now on the backhand is the same way, obviously, just with the back of your hand. The same thing goes for the one-handed backhand as it does for the two-handed backhand. Now it's really important that in order for you to do that properly, you try to keep your wrist from dropping too much because some people have very flexible wrists. So when they're trying to take their racket back with their wrist, they end up dropping it all the way down here. And now you're again in that same position as if you drop your whole arm down and the racket will be too far under the ball and you won't be able to give it enough power to get that ball over to the baseline on the other side of the court. Now one last quick tip to make this a bit easier for you, and this is something that works for me very well. Try to make sure that you grab onto the racket a little bit more tightly, a little bit more firmly, so that keeps your wrist from dropping too far because the tighter you hold on, the less flexibility you will have in your wrist when you're originally moving it back and forth. So like that, you'll end up not dropping your wrist too far and you will be able to swing more forward through your backhands. Same thing goes on the forehand. If you hold on a bit tighter, your racket won't drop all the way to down here, but will maybe stay somewhere here so you can swing more forward through your shots rather than just swinging up, and thus making it a lot easier for yourself to keep your balls on the backhand and forehand side deeper inside the rallies without losing control. Now here we included a couple of examples of Kata and me using a backswing with a very low racket head and then causing that short spinny backhand that doesn't have a lot of power. Here you can see me as well. I'm keeping my racket head very low on the backswing, make it difficult to transfer my power forward. And now after that, we can see a better example where we are actually trying to hit through the ball a bit more, keeping our racket head a little bit